The Grayson house smelled like pot roast and vanilla candles. Nolan pushed through the front door at 6:47 p.m., cape folded over his arm, still wearing the suit. He'd spent the afternoon stopping a bank robbery in Detroit. 3 guys with shotguns who surrendered the moment they saw him coming through the wall. Easy work. The kind of work that didn't require thinking. "Dad!" Mark's voice exploded from the living room. 5 years old, gap-toothed, wearing a Superman shirt that was 2 sizes too big. The kid crashed into Nolan's legs like a missile, arms wrapping tight. Nolan dropped the cape, lifted Mark with one hand, effortless. "Hey, champ. Miss me? You were gone for like 100 hours. 4 hours, Nolan corrected, but he was smiling. The kind of smile that had become automatic over the years. The kind that didn't used to exist. Debbie appeared in the kitchen doorway, wooden spoon in hand. Hair tied back in a messy ponytail. "Dinner's almost ready. You need to shower, you smell like burnt concrete." It was a warehouse fire. Had to pull someone out. "My hero," she said, and there wasn't a trace of sarcasm in it. She meant it. Mark squirmed in Nolan's grip. "Can we play catch after dinner? Please, you promised." "Yeah, sure, but you gotta eat your vegetables. Even the green ones, especially the green ones." Mark groaned, like he'd been sentenced to death, but he was grinning. He ran back to his toys. Action figures scattered across the carpet, locked in some imaginary battle only he understood. Nolan watched him play. Something warm settled in his chest. Something human. He'd been on Earth for 20 years. The first 3, he'd done what he was supposed to do: integrate, observe, prepare. He'd mapped the planet's defenses, cataloged its heroes, identified the strategic targets. Everything by the book. Then he'd met Debbie. Then Mark was born. Then the years started stacking up, and somewhere along the way, the mission became background noise. He'd sent his last report to the Empire 9 months ago. A brief update. Still establishing infrastructure. No complications. He hadn't mentioned the fact that he couldn't remember the last time he'd thought about conquering anything. Debbie called from the kitchen. "Nolan, can you set the table on it?" He moved into the dining room, pulling plates from the cabinet. The good ones, the ceramic set Debbie's mother had given them. He could hear Mark making explosion noises in the living room. Could hear Debbie humming something off-key while she stirred. 17 years. 17 years of pretending. Except at some point, it stopped being pretend. The ceiling exploded inward. No warning, no sonic boom, just sudden catastrophic violence. Chunks of drywall and insulation rained down. The dining table flipped, plates shattering against the wall. Nolan spun, dropping into a combat stance on pure instinct, and saw her descending through the hole in the ceiling like a meteor given form. Anissa. She was taller than he remembered, broader in the shoulders. Her Viltrumite combat suit was dark gray, marked with imperial insignias he recognized from a lifetime ago. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her face was expressionless. She landed on the hardwood floor. The impact cracked the foundation. "Nolan," she said. Not a greeting. A confirmation. Debbie screamed from the kitchen. Mark was crying in the living room, small and terrified. Nolan raised his hands, placating. "Anissa, wait." She moved, faster than he'd seen anyone move in 2 decades. Her fist caught him in the solar plexus, drove the air from his lungs, sent him crashing through the wall into the backyard. He hit the ground hard enough to crater the lawn, dirt and grass erupting around him. Nolan rolled, gasping. His ribs were already healing, but the shock remained. He looked up. Anissa was walking through the hole she'd made, unhurried, deliberate. "You've gone soft," she said, stepping into the moonlight. "I can see it in the way you move. Slow, hesitant, contaminated." "Listen to me." Nolan started to rise. Anissa kicked him in the jaw. His head snapped back. Blood filled his mouth. She grabbed him by the throat, lifted him off the ground with one hand, and slammed him back down. Once, twice, 3 times, each impact drove him deeper into the earth. "Thrag knows," Anissa said, her voice flat. "Clinical. You stopped reporting. You married one of them. You bred with it. She's not an it." Anissa punched him in the spine. Something cracked. Nolan's vision whited out. The pain was immediate, blinding, the kind of pain he hadn't felt since the Purge Wars. He tried to fight back, swung wild, desperate. Anissa caught his wrist, twisted, dislocated his shoulder with a wet pop. You were a soldier, she said, forcing him face down into the dirt. Now you're a traitor. But you're still valuable, rare. Thrag won't waste you. He'll break you, re-educate you, make you useful again. Nolan's face was pressed into the soil. He could barely move, could barely think through the pain. Anissa, please, my family. Your contamination. Anissa stepped on his spine, grinding her boot down. The human female will be irrelevant, but the hybrid child. She paused. Thrag wants to see if we can salvage him. Prove that mixed bloodlines can serve the Empire. I volunteered for the extraction. Terror cut through the pain. No, Anissa, don't. She was already walking back toward the house. Debbie stood in the ruined doorway, shaking, holding a kitchen knife like it meant anything. Behind her, Mark was sobbing, pressed against the wall, too scared to run. Anissa looked at Debbie the way someone looks at an insect. Move. Debbie didn't move. Get away from my son. Anissa tilted her head. Your son. She reached out, grabbed Debbie by the face, and shoved. Not hard by Viltrumite standards. Just enough. Debbie flew backward into the kitchen, hit the refrigerator, crumpled. She didn't get up. Mom. Mark's scream was raw, animal. Anissa turned to him. Mark tried to run. She was faster. Her hand closed around his throat, lifted him off his feet. He kicked, clawed at her wrist, couldn't breathe. She studied him like a specimen, turned his face left, then right, examining bone structure, eye color, analyzing. Weak, she said quietly, crying. Soft. But the genetic markers are there. Muscle density is above human baseline. Skeletal structure shows Viltrumite reinforcement. You're salvageable. Mark couldn't speak, could only choke, tears streaming down his face. Nolan dragged himself to his knees, spine screaming, Anissa, please, he's just a child. Anissa glanced back at him. He's a tool. And you failed to sharpen him. I won't make the same mistake. She started walking toward the hole in the ceiling, Mark dangling from her grip. The boy reached out toward the house, toward his mother's unconscious form, toward the only home he'd ever known. No, Nolan tried to stand. His legs wouldn't hold him. He collapsed, vertebrae grinding. Don't take him, please. I'll do anything. Anissa paused at the threshold, looked down at Nolan with something that might have been pity, might have been disgust. You failed the Empire, she said. I will not fail Thrag. This child will become what you could never be. She crouched slightly, preparing for launch. Nolan reached out, fingers digging into the dirt, dragging himself forward. Mark. Son. Mark's eyes locked with his father's. 5 years old, terrified, not understanding. Dad, the word was barely a whisper. Anissa launched. The sonic boom shattered every window in the house. Debris scattered across the lawn. Nolan watched them rise, watched his son shrink against the night sky, watched Anissa's silhouette carry him higher, faster, away. Earth shrank beneath them. Mark could see his house getting smaller, the lights of the neighborhood, the curve of the planet. He couldn't breathe, couldn't scream anymore, could only watch. Anissa's voice cut through the wind, cold, absolute. Forget that place. It was never your home. The stars swallowed them whole. Below, Nolan collapsed in the ruins of his backyard. Debbie crawled to the doorway, blood running from her temple, just in time to see the contrail fade. Her scream carried across 3 blocks, but Mark was already gone. The training station orbited a dying red giant somewhere in Sector 447. No name, just coordinates. The station itself was Viltrumite standard. Bare metal corridors, gravity set to 3 times Earth normal, temperature cold enough to see breath. Mark's first memory of it was the floor. Gray steel, freezing against his cheek. He'd cried for 6 hours straight before his throat gave out. Anissa had strapped him into a chair in the center of an empty room and left. When she returned, she didn't acknowledge the tears. Didn't acknowledge him at all. She placed a bowl of nutrient paste on the floor. Gray, flavorless, eat. Mark stared at her. His face was puffy, eyes red. I want my mom. Anissa crouched to his level. Her expression didn't change. You don't have a mother. You have a genetic donor who contaminated you with weakness. I'm correcting that contamination. Eat. I want to go home. This is home. Eat or starve. Your choice. She left again. The door sealed behind her with a magnetic hiss. Mark didn't eat. Not that day, not the next. On the third day, hunger overrode everything else. He crawled to the bowl, shoved the paste into his mouth with both hands, gagged, kept eating. Anissa watched through the observation window, made a note on her datapad. Subject demonstrates survival instinct. Acceptable baseline. Age 6. Mark didn't know what year it was anymore. Time was measured in training cycles, meal periods, rest intervals. Anissa spoke only Viltrumite now. Guttural, harsh, a language built for giving orders. When Mark responded in English, she ignored him. Completely. Like he didn't exist. It took 4 months before he started mimicking the sounds. 6 months before he could form basic sentences. Anissa's first response to his Viltrumite was a single nod. Mark clung to that nod like a lifeline. The physical training started small. Carry this weight. Hold this position. Run until you collapse. The gravity made everything harder. His 6-year-old body wasn't built for it. His bones ached. His muscles screamed. When he fell, Anissa didn't help him up. She stood over him, waiting. Again, she said. Mark pushed himself to his knees. Fell. Pushed again. Again. He made it to his feet. Took 3 steps. Collapsed. Again. By the end of the cycle, he managed 20 steps. Anissa marked it in her notes. Progress. Marginal, but measurable. That night, alone in his cell, Mark whispered to himself in English, trying to remember his mother's voice. The words were getting harder to find. Age 8, the crying stopped entirely. Mark learned that emotions were inefficient. Tears didn't change anything. Fear didn't change anything. Anissa responded only to results. She taught him Viltrumite history during rest periods. The Empire's expansion. The Purge Wars. The elimination of the weak. She spoke about it the way someone might describe the weather. Factual, detached. Your father, she said one day, not looking at him, was a decorated officer. 300 conquered worlds. Exemplary service record. Then Earth contaminated him. Made him forget his purpose. Do you understand what that means? Mark sat cross-legged on the floor, hands folded. He'd learned this posture meant attentive. Meant she might continue talking. No, Commander. It means weakness is infectious. One moment of sentiment, one attachment to inferior biology, and centuries of conditioning evaporate. She turned to face him. That's why I isolated you, why I removed every trace of that planet from your environment. I'm inoculating you against his failure. Yes, Commander. You don't sound convinced. Mark met her eyes. He'd learned not to look away. I am convinced, Commander. I don't remember Earth well anymore. It was true. His mother's face was blurry now. His father's voice was gone. The house, the toys, the warmth. All of it was fading like a dream on waking. Anissa studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Good. Forgetting is the first step. Understanding is the second. She activated a holographic display. Images of Earth, cities, populations, infrastructure. Your father's assignment was simple, Anissa said. Integrate, weaken their defenses, prepare for conquest. Instead, he became one of them, soft, sentimental, useless. She zoomed in on a city. Mark didn't recognize it. When you're ready, you'll return to Earth. You'll complete his mission. You'll prove that hybrid biology can serve the Empire. Do you understand? Felt nothing. Yes, Commander. What will you prove? That I am not my father. Anissa's lips twitched. Almost a smile. Correct. Age 12, the pain was unbearable. Mark hung suspended in a gravitational field set to 8 times Earth normal. His bones felt like they were splintering. His organs were crushing inward. Every breath was agony. Anissa stood outside the field watching. Your powers should have manifested by now. Your genetic profile indicates Viltrumite dominance, but your human contamination is delaying activation. This is unacceptable. Mark couldn't respond, could barely think. I'm forcing the issue, Anissa continued. Your body will adapt or it will break. If it breaks, you were never worth the investment. She increased the gravity 9 times. 10, Mark screamed. The sound was raw, inhuman. Something in his chest cracked. Then something else. His vision tunneled. He was going to die here. He was going to... Something ignited, deep in his cells, in his DNA. A switch flipping. Viltrumite genes activating in pure self-defense. The pain didn't stop, but suddenly he could breathe through it. His bones stopped breaking, started reinforcing. His muscles didn't tear, they adapted. Mark's eyes snapped open. They were glowing faintly. Not heat vision, just cellular energy radiating outward. Anissa leaned forward. There it is. She shut off the field. Mark collapsed to the floor, gasping, shaking. His skin was smoking slightly from the strain. "Stand up," Anissa ordered. Mark's body responded before his mind caught up. He stood, swaying but upright. "Acceptable," Anissa said. She made a note. "We begin combat training tomorrow. No more delays." Mark looked at his hands. They were trembling, but they were also strong. Stronger than they'd been an hour ago. He'd unlocked something. Something that had been sleeping inside him. Anissa saw the realization in his face. "Don't celebrate, you're 3 years behind schedule. We have significant ground to cover." "Yes, Commander." But for the first time in 7 years, Mark felt something other than emptiness. He felt capable. Age 15, the arena was carved into an asteroid, open to vacuum. No atmosphere, no sound except what conducted through bone and metal. Mark stood in the center, barefoot, wearing only basic combat wraps. Across from him, something that used to be called a Ragnarian shredder, 3 meters tall, chitinous armor, 6 arms ending in blades. The creature had killed 2 Viltrumite enforcers last month. Anissa had purchased it specifically for this exercise. She floated above the arena. Observing, her voice came through the neural implant she'd installed in Mark's skull. "No killing blow until I authorize it. I want to see technique." The shredder charged. Mark didn't dodge. He'd learned that dodging was for the weak. He caught the first blade arm mid-swing, redirected the momentum, used it to position himself inside the creature's guard. His fist drove into the joint where arm met thorax. Chitin cracked, the arm went limp. The shredder roared, silent in vacuum. But Mark felt the vibration through his feet. It swept with 3 remaining blade arms simultaneously. Mark ducked one, parried the second with his forearm. His skin was dense enough now that the blade skittered off, and caught the third. He twisted, applying leverage exactly how Anissa had drilled him. The arm broke backward. "Better," Anissa's voice. "But you're still hesitating. See the opening at its throat?" Mark saw it. A gap in the armor plating. "Vulnerable." "Take it." Mark drove his hand forward, fingers rigid, through the gap. His hand punched through the other side. The shredder convulsed once, went still. Mark pulled his arm free. The creature collapsed. He stood over it, breathing steady, covered in alien blood that was already freezing in the vacuum. Anissa descended. She walked a slow circle around the corpse, analyzing the kill. Efficient, clean. You wasted no movement. Your father would have monologued first, tried to reason with it. You simply executed. Mark said nothing. Waited. "Look at me." He turned. Anissa was close now. Closer than she'd been in years. She reached out, placed a hand on his shoulder. The first gentle touch since she'd taken him. "You're ready for live deployment," she said. "Thrag will want to see proof. We'll select an appropriate target, something that will demonstrate what I've built." Mark's heart rate didn't change. He'd learned to control that. "Yes, Commander." "Does the prospect excite you?" "I don't experience excitement, Commander. I experience purpose." Anissa's hand tightened on his shoulder. Not painful, almost proud. "Good answer." Age 17. Mark stood in front of a mirror for the first time in 12 years. Anissa had installed it in his quarters without explanation. He stared at his reflection. He was taller than Nolan, broader in the shoulders. His face had lost all softness. Sharp angles, cold eyes, the expression of someone who'd forgotten how to smile. He wore the combat suit Anissa had commissioned. Dark gray, imperial insignia over the heart. It fit perfectly. He looked Viltrumite. He was Viltrumite. Somewhere, buried so deep he couldn't access it anymore, was a 5-year-old boy who'd played with action figures, who'd loved pot roast, who'd called someone mom. Mark tried to remember what that felt like. He couldn't. Anissa's voice came through the comm. "Report to the briefing room. We have our assignment." Mark turned from the mirror, walked out without looking back. The boy in the reflection didn't follow. He'd been dead for years. The briefing room was a steel box with a single holographic projector in the center. Mark entered to find Anissa already waiting, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Sit," she said. Mark sat, spine straight, hands on knees, the posture of a soldier awaiting orders. Anissa activated the projector. A planet materialized above the table, blue-green ringed with orbital defense platforms, cities visible as clusters of light on the night side. Tailskria, Anissa said. Population, 4.2 billion. Technological classification, early spacefaring. Political status, rebelling against imperial annexation. Mark studied the planet, calculated defensive capabilities from the visible infrastructure. Orbital platforms appear to be particle beam-based. Effective range, approximately. "This isn't an analysis exercise," Anissa interrupted. "This is your test. Thrag wants to see if 12 years of conditioning produced results or wasted resources. Tailskria has killed 3 Viltrumite enforcers in the last 6 months. They're well-armed, coordinated, and ideologically committed to resistance." She zoomed in on a continent. A city sprawled across a river delta, massive towers connected by rail systems, industrial sectors belching smoke even from orbit. "Your objective is extermination," Anissa continued. "No prisoners, no negotiations, no speeches. This is a demonstration of imperial supremacy. The manner of execution is your discretion, but the outcome is non-negotiable." Total pacification didn't change. Timeline, 48 hours. After that, I deploy backup, and you're marked as a failure. "Understood." Anissa deactivated the display, turned to face him fully. "Mark, this isn't training. These aren't simulation targets. This is 4 billion living beings who will die because you decide they should. Does that trouble you?" "No, Commander." "Why not?" "Because they chose rebellion. The consequence of that choice is elimination. It's logical." Anissa studied him for a long moment, looking for cracks, finding none. "You've internalized the doctrine completely. Good. But understand, this is the point where theory becomes practice, where philosophy becomes blood. Some soldiers freeze the first time they're asked to kill on this scale. If you're going to hesitate, I need to know now." Mark met her eyes. "I won't hesitate. How can you be certain? 12 years of conditioning doesn't evaporate. You said so yourself." Something flickered across Anissa's face. Pride, satisfaction. She nodded once. "Then go. I'll observe from orbit. Show me what you are." Mark stood. "Yes, Commander." He walked to the launch bay, didn't look back. The descent through Tailskria's atmosphere was smooth until the defense grid activated. Alarms screamed across every military installation on the planet. Orbital platforms rotated, targeting systems locking onto the single Viltrumite signature dropping through the upper atmosphere. Mark didn't alter course, didn't dodge. Just fell, arms at his sides, watching the planet rush up to meet him. The first particle beam hit him at 30,000 meters. It burned, not enough to damage, but enough to register. He felt the energy wash over his skin, his suit absorbing most of it. He adjusted his trajectory slightly, aimed for the capital city, more beams. Dozens. The sky turned white with concentrated fire. Mark flew through it like rain, picking up speed, breaking Mach 5, Mach 8, accelerating. The targeting computers couldn't keep up. He was moving too fast, too erratically. The beams started hitting each other, fratricide between platforms. Mark broke through the cloud layer at 15,000 meters. The city spread out beneath him. 8 million people in the metropolitan area, another 6 million in the surrounding districts. He could see the military installations now, the palace where the planetary council met, the communication towers, the transit hubs. He prioritized targets in his head. Anissa's training. Decapitate command structure first. Cripple communications second. Eliminate resistance capacity third. Population control fourth. He hit the palace at Mach 12. The impact vaporized the entire structure. The shock wave shattered windows for 3 kilometers in every radius. Debris rocketed outward, stone and steel and glass, moving faster than bullets. Mark emerged from the crater, dust settling around him. The council was dead. 17 members, their bodyguards, administrative staff, 200 casualties in 3 seconds. Alarms were screaming across the city now, military response teams scrambling. Mark could hear the helicopters spinning up, the armored divisions mobilizing. He flew toward the nearest communication tower. grabbed it halfway up, a 100-meter spire of steel and broadcast equipment. He ripped it from its foundation like pulling a weed. Threw it. The tower spun end over end, crashed through a military barracks 8 blocks away. The building collapsed. Mark didn't wait to count the bodies. The helicopters arrived. 6 of them, military-grade, armed with missiles and rotary cannons. They opened fire simultaneously. Mark flew straight into the lead helicopter, through the cockpit, through the pilot, through the rear rotor. The aircraft spun wildly, clipped another helicopter. Both went down, trailing smoke and fire. The remaining 4 scattered. Mark caught one, grabbed the landing skid, swung the entire helicopter like a bat, used it to smash another out of the sky. Both exploded. Debris rained across a residential district. Mark discarded the wreckage, continued toward the military command center. Ground forces were setting up positions. Powered armor, tail-scryan design, bulky but effective. 20 soldiers in exosuits, each carrying what looked like plasma cannons. They fired in unison. The plasma bolts hit Mark's center mass. He felt the heat, the impact. It was like being punched by 20 people simultaneously. His suit scorched. His skin underneath reddened. He didn't slow down. Mark hit the formation like a meteor, grabbed the nearest soldier, 300 kilos of armor, and man, and used him as a battering ram. Drove the body through 3 other soldiers. Armor crumpled. Bones broke. Mark discarded the corpse. Moved to the next. This one tried to flee. Mark grabbed his ankle mid-sprint, swung him overhead, slammed him into the pavement hard enough to crack the street. Kept swinging. Used the body to beat 2 more soldiers into submission. Plasma fire continued. Mark ignored it. Moved through the formation methodically. Grab, crush, discard. Repeat. 15 seconds. 20 corpses. The survivors ran. Mark didn't pursue. They weren't the objective. He flew to the command center, a reinforced bunker 3 stories underground. The entrance was sealed, blast doors rated to survive orbital bombardment. Mark punched through them. The steel shrieked, tore, bent inward. He widened the hole, stepped through into emergency lighting and screaming alarms. The command staff were scrambling, trying to evacuate through service tunnels, trying to arm themselves, trying to broadcast distress calls. Mark walked down the corridor, unhurried, each step deliberate. An officer appeared around the corner, sidearm drawn. He fired. The bullets flattened against Mark's chest, fell to the floor with tiny metallic clinks. Mark grabbed the man by the head, lifted him off his feet. The officer kicked, clawed, screamed. "Please, we can negotiate, we can." Mark twisted, the neck snapped. He dropped the body, continued walking. The command center was ahead. Reinforced door. Mark tore it off the hinges. Inside, the Planetary Defense Coordinator stood with 12 staff officers. They'd armed themselves with whatever they could find, rifles, pistols, one man holding a ceremonial sword. The coordinator was older, gray-haired, wearing a uniform covered in medals. He stepped forward, weapon lowered. "Wait, just wait. We can discuss terms." Mark's fist went through his chest. He felt ribs break, organs rupture, the spine snap. The coordinator's eyes went wide, mouth opening, closing, blood running from his lips. Mark pulled his hand free. The body collapsed. The remaining officers opened fire. Mark moved through them like a machine. Precise, efficient, no wasted motion. Grab this one's head, slam it into the wall. Catch that one's rifle, use it to break his jaw. Punch through this one's sternum. Step on that one's throat. 20 seconds, 12 dead. Silence in the command center, just the sound of alarms and dripping blood. Mark looked at his hands, covered in red. Tail-scryan blood was darker than human, almost purple in the emergency lighting. He felt nothing, no satisfaction, no disgust. Just completion of objective. He activated his comm. "Commander, command structure eliminated." Proceeding to secondary targets. Anissa's voice came through, clear and cold. "Acceptable. Continue." Mark walked out of the bunker, leaving the bodies behind. The next 36 hours were systematic: military installations, power plants, water treatment facilities, transit hubs, manufacturing centers. Mark moved through the city like a plague, destroying infrastructure with mechanical precision. When the military organized a final stand, 12,000 soldiers, every functional vehicle and weapon they had left, Mark flew through them at supersonic speed. The sonic boom alone killed hundreds. The shockwave flipped tanks, shredded soldiers, collapsed buildings. He didn't stop to confirm kills. Didn't need to. By hour 40, the capital was burning. Smoke columns visible from orbit. Casualty estimates in the hundreds of thousands. Mark stood in what used to be the central plaza. Bodies scattered across the square. Rubble from collapsed buildings. Fires burning unchecked. The sky was dark with smoke. He wasn't breathing hard. Wasn't injured. His suit was scorched and bloodied, but intact. He could keep going for days. Anissa descended from orbit, landed across from him in the ruins. She surveyed the destruction slowly. The burning city, the bodies, the absolute devastation of what had been a planetary capital 40 hours ago. Then she looked at Mark. Casualties? She asked. 460,000 confirmed. Estimates suggest total casualties near 700,000 when infrastructure collapse is accounted for. Military capacity? Planetary defense grid is offline. Command structure is decapitated. Remaining forces are scattered. Uncoordinated, organized resistance is no longer possible. Anissa walked closer, stepped through the rubble, examining his work like an art critic studying a painting. You completed this alone, she said. Not a question. Confirmation? Yes. Commander, did you hesitate at any point? No, Commander. Did you experience emotional conflict? Mark paused, genuinely considering the question. No, Commander. The objectives were clear. I executed them. Anissa stopped in front of him, close enough that he could see her expression clearly for the first time in years. Pride. Genuine, undisguised pride. She reached out, placed a hand on his shoulder, the gesture she'd used once before, the closest thing to affection she was capable of. You exceeded my expectations, she said quietly. Thrag will be pleased. You've proven that hybrid genetics can be weaponized, that human contamination can be burned away, that you are not your father. Just recognition. The thing he'd been working toward for 12 years. The only thing that mattered. Approval. Thank you, Commander. Anissa's hand tightened slightly. You've earned the right to a new designation. You're no longer a trainee. You're an Imperial enforcer. Do you understand what that means? I serve the Empire. I execute its will. I am a weapon in Thrag's hand. Correct. She released his shoulder. We return to Viltrum immediately. Thrag has your next assignment prepared. It will be significantly more personal. Anissa turned, began walking back toward her launch position. You're going home, Mark. To Earth. To complete what your father failed to begin. Mark looked down at the city one last time. 700,000 dead. Infrastructure destroyed. A civilization broken in 40 hours. He felt nothing. Yes, Commander, he said. I'm ready. They launched together, leaving Tailskria burning behind them. In the ruins, survivors would eventually emerge. They would find the bodies, the destruction, the absolute totality of what one Viltrumite could do, and they would tell the story of the hybrid, the weapon, the monster that Anissa built. Mark Grayson didn't look back. Earth was waiting. The throne chamber on Viltrum was carved from a single piece of obsidian, black walls that seemed to absorb light. No decoration, no comfort. Just vast, empty space designed to make anyone who entered feel insignificant. Mark stood at the center, hands behind his back, eyes forward. Waiting, Thrag sat on the throne 50 meters away. Massive even by Viltrumite standards. Scarred, ancient. His beard was gray, braided with iron rings that clinked when he moved. His eyes were the color of dead stars. Anissa stood to the left, formal attention posture. She'd briefed Mark during the flight from Tailskria. Speak only when addressed, answer directly, show no weakness. Thrag respects strength and efficiency. Nothing else. Thrag studied Mark in silence. The examination lasted 3 full minutes. Mark didn't move, didn't blink, just stood. Finally, Thrag spoke. His voice was gravel sliding down a mountainside. Anissa claims you exterminated Tailskria's capital in under 2 days. Alone. Casualty estimates? 700,000 confirmed. Infrastructure collapse will produce additional casualties over the following months. Resistance? Eliminated. Thrag stood, descended from the throne. Each footstep echoed through the chamber like a drumbeat. He approached Mark slowly, circling him the way a predator circles prey. You're smaller than I expected, Thrag said. Half-breed genetics. Human contamination diluting proper Viltrumite proportions. Mark said nothing. There was no response that wouldn't sound defensive. Thrag stopped in front of him, close enough that Mark could smell old blood on the Grand Regent's armor. Look at me. Mark met his eyes. Thrag's stare was like looking into a furnace. Anissa believes you're a perfected weapon, Thrag continued. That 12 years of conditioning erased your father's failure. That hybrid vigor can be weaponized for the Empire. I see a half-breed who has never faced real stakes. Who killed primitives on a backwater world and thinks that makes him proven? I make no claims, Grand Regent. Only results. Thrag's hand shot out, grabbed Mark by the throat, lifted him off his feet. The grip was crushing. Mark's windpipe compressed. His vision started to tunnel, but he didn't struggle, didn't panic, just hung there, maintaining eye contact. Thrag squeezed harder. Your father was the finest warrior of his generation. 300 conquered worlds, exemplary service record. Then one primitive planet corrupted him, made him soft, made him weak. He pulled Mark closer. You share his blood, his genetics, his fundamental flaw. Give me one reason I shouldn't crush your throat right now and save the Empire future disappointment. Mark's voice came out strangled, but steady, because Anissa's investment was sound, and you don't waste resources. Thrag held him there for another 10 seconds, then released. Mark landed on his feet, didn't stumble. His throat was bruised, but already healing. Thrag returned to his throne, sat, gestured to Anissa. Your assessment stands? Yes, Grand Regent. Mark exceeded operational parameters on Tail Scrya. No hesitation, no moral conflict, pure execution of imperial doctrine. Then we test that doctrine. Thrag leaned forward. Earth, your father's assignment. He had 17 years to prepare it for conquest. Instead, he integrated, married, bred. He abandoned his mission for sentiment. The planet remains unconquered, an embarrassment to the Empire. Mark's expression didn't change. You will complete his mission, Thrag continued. You will conquer Earth, dismantle their defenses, subjugate their population, establish imperial control. You have 6 months. If you succeed, you will be recognized as a true Viltrumite, bloodline irrelevant. If you fail, he didn't finish, didn't need to. Understood, Grand Regent. You'll be alone, no support, no reinforcements. If Earth's primitives kill you, you were never worth the investment. If you hesitate, if you show mercy, if you demonstrate any trace of your father's weakness, Anissa will terminate you herself. Are these terms acceptable? Yes, Grand Regent. Thrag studied him for another long moment. Your father failed because he allowed emotional attachment to override duty. He saw humans as something other than obstacles. Do you understand why that was his fundamental error? The mission is conquest. Anything that interferes with the mission must be eliminated, including family. I have no family except the Empire. Thrag's lips twitched. Almost a smile. We'll see. Dismissed. Anissa, you'll accompany him. Observe. If he shows weakness, correct it permanently. Yes, Grand Regent. Anissa saluted, turned crisply. Mark followed her out of the throne chamber. The ship was a standard Imperial scout vessel. 2-person capacity. Faster than light capable. Armed with enough firepower to sterilize a continent. Anissa programmed the navigation while Mark secured equipment. Combat suits, medical supplies, data cores containing intelligence on Earth's defenses. The ship hummed, vibration through the deck plates as the engines cycled up. Anissa sat in the command chair. Mark took the secondary position. The viewport showed Viltrum's surface, red deserts, dark oceans, cities carved into mountains. Final briefing. Anissa said. She activated a holographic display. Earth materialized between them. Blue-green, familiar from intelligence reports, but Mark felt no recognition. Population, 7.8 billion. Technological classification, nuclear capable, pre-FTL. Superhuman population estimated at 600 active combatants. Threat level, negligible under normal circumstances. However, highlighted specific locations. The Global Defense Agency, run by a human named Cecil Stedman. He's a strategic thinker, ruthless, pragmatic. He's been building Earth's defenses for 20 years, ever since your father's arrival. Orbital weapons, teleportation grids, kaiju detention facilities, anti-Viltrumite contingencies. Effectiveness against a single Viltrumite? Minimal. Against you specifically? She paused. Cecil knows your father, knows his weaknesses. He'll assume you share them. He'll target your human side. Psychological warfare? Emotional manipulation. He'll use your mother. Mark's expression didn't change. My genetic donor is irrelevant. Prove it. Anissa's tone was flat. Because if Cecil gets inside your head, if he makes you hesitate even once, you'll fail. And I'll kill you before you have a chance to become your father. Understood, Commander. The ship lurched. FTL drive engaging. The stars stretched into lines. They sat in silence for several minutes. Anissa reviewing tactical data. Mark staring at Earth's hologram. Finally, Anissa spoke without looking up. Do you remember it? Earth? No, Commander. Nothing. No images, no sensations, no emotional residue. Crying. The feeling of being small. But I don't remember why. The context is gone. Good. Context creates attachment. Attachment creates weakness. She deactivated the display, turned to face him fully. Mark, this assignment is different from Tailskria. Tailskria was strangers, aliens you had no connection to. Earth is where you were born, where your father chose primitives over the Empire, where your genetic donor still lives, waiting for you to return. She's waiting for a child who doesn't exist anymore. Will you be able to kill her if the mission requires it? The question hung in the air. The ship's engines provided a constant low hum. Outside, FTL space looked like television static. Mark met Anissa's eyes. Yes, Commander. Without hesitation? Without hesitation. Anissa stood, walked to the viewport, Earth's hologram reflected in the glass. I've spent 12 years building you, conditioning you, erasing weakness. You're my masterpiece, my proof that hybrid genetics can serve the Empire. If you fail, it invalidates everything I've done. Do you understand the stakes? I won't fail. Your father said the same thing. Then he met your mother. Then you were born. Then 17 years passed and he'd forgotten why he was there. She turned. What makes you different? Because I know what I am. He didn't. He thought he could be both Viltrumite and human. I have no such delusion. I'm Viltrumite. Completely. The human DNA is irrelevant biology. Anissa studied him, looking for cracks, for doubt, for anything that indicated weakness. She found nothing. Good, she said finally. Then when we land, you'll prove it. Earth has heroes, superpowered defenders who will try to stop you, the guardians of the globe. Cecil's pet soldiers. Your father. She paused. Your father eliminated the original team years ago, before you were born. They rebuilt, stronger, better trained, more prepared. How many? 7 active members. The immortal he regenerated after your father killed him. Monster Girl, bulletproof. Shapesmith. Others. None individually threatening, but coordinated they could slow you down, delay the mission. Then I'll kill them immediately. Remove the variable. No speeches. No warnings. No mercy. None, Commander. The FTL drive began cycling down. They were approaching the Sol system. Earth's sun visible ahead, a yellow dwarf, unremarkable except for what orbited it. Anissa returned to her seat. We'll drop from FTL at the edge of the system. Approach at sublight to avoid triggering every defense satellite they have. Land directly at GDA headquarters. Maximum visibility. Maximum psychological impact. Show them immediately that resistance is futile. And if they attempt negotiation, they will. Cecil is smart enough to try talking before fighting. You'll refuse. Words are weakness. Action is strength. The only communication they need to understand is domination. The ship shuddered. Dropping from FTL, real space reasserted itself. Stars became points instead of lines. And there it was. Earth, hanging in the black. Blue oceans, green continents, white cloud systems. 7.8 billion humans going about their lives unaware that their world was about to change forever. Mark stared at it. This planet had produced him. Half his DNA came from there. Somewhere on that sphere, a woman lived who'd carried him for 9 months, who'd raised him for 5 years, who'd screamed when Anissa took him. He tried to feel something about that, tried to find recognition, nostalgia, anything. Nothing. Just a target. Just another world that needed to be brought into compliance. Ready? Anissa asked. Mark activated his combat suit. The material tightened, sealed, imperial insignia glowing faintly over his heart. Ready, Commander. The ship accelerated. Toward Earth. Toward the mission. Toward the completion of what his father had failed to do. Mark Grayson was going home. But the child who'd left wasn't the weapon that was returning. And Earth was going to learn the difference. The ship descended through Earth's atmosphere at 0800 hours local time. No stealth, no subtlety, just a Viltrumite vessel burning through the sky like a meteor, visible for 300 miles in every direction. GDA headquarters was a fortress carved into the Virginia coastline. Reinforced bunkers, missile batteries, energy shields that could withstand nuclear detonation. Cecil Stedman had built it to survive an alien invasion. He was about to find out if he'd built it strong enough. The ship landed in the main courtyard. Concrete cracked under the landing gear. Alarms screamed immediately. Blast doors sealed. Weapon systems activated. Somewhere deep in the command center, Cecil was watching through a dozen camera feeds, calculating odds, preparing contingencies. The ship's ramp lowered. Mark stepped out first. Sunlight hit his face. Earth's sun felt different from the red giant he'd trained under. Warmer. Softer. His boots touched American soil for the first time in 12 years. He felt nothing. Anissa followed. She surveyed the headquarters with cold assessment. Adequate fortifications for primitives. Irrelevant against actual force. Defensive turrets rotated. Targeting systems locking on. 50 weapons aimed at 2 Viltrumites standing in the open. Mark waited. Let them see him clearly. Let them broadcast his face to every intelligence agency on the planet. A voice boomed from external speakers. Cecil's voice. Controlled. Measured. Unidentified Viltrumites, you are in violation of Earth's sovereign airspace. Identify yourselves and state your intentions. Mark didn't respond. Anissa had been clear. Words are weakness. Let action speak. I'm going to ask one more time, Cecil continued. Who are you and what do you want? Mark activated his own comm, broadcasting on all GDA frequencies. His voice was flat, empty. I am Mark Grayson. I'm here to complete Earth's conquest. You have 10 minutes to evacuate non-combatants. After that, I begin operations. Silence on the other end. 3 seconds. 5. Then Cecil's voice came back, different now. Tighter. Mark? Mark Grayson? Nolan's son? I'm correcting his failure. Jesus Christ. Cecil was processing, reorganizing. Mark could almost hear the tactical calculations. Mark, I know what happened to you. I know Anissa took you when you were 5 years old. Whatever she did to you, whatever she made you believe, you don't have to. 9 minutes, Mark interrupted. Evacuate now, or they die when I start. Mark, your mother is alive. Debbie's alive. She's been looking for you for 12 years. She never stopped. Mark cut the transmission. Looked at Anissa. They're stalling. Buying time to mobilize defenses. Of course they are. Anissa pointed at the sky. Satellite feeds show 7 superhuman signatures converging on this location. The Guardians are 2 minutes out. Cecil's throwing his best assets at you immediately. Do I wait for them to arrive? No. You've given them warning. That's more than they deserve. Execute the mission. Mark nodded, crouched slightly, launched. He hit the main building at Mach 4. The impact was a thunderclap. Concrete and steel exploded outward. He punched through 6 floors, came out the other side in a shower of debris. Behind him, the building groaned. Structural supports compromised. The entire western wing collapsed. Alarms doubled in volume. The weapons systems opened fire. Missiles, particle beams, kinetic rounds. Everything Cecil had installed for exactly this scenario. The courtyard turned into a kill zone. Explosions overlapping, the air burning with energy discharge. Mark flew through it. Missiles detonated against his body. He felt the heat, the concussive force, but his Viltrumite physiology absorbed it. Particle beams scorched his suit but didn't penetrate. Kinetic rounds flattened against his chest. He grabbed the nearest turret, ripped it from its mounting. The metal shrieked. He swung it like a club, smashed 3 other weapon emplacements, discarded the wreckage, continued forward. The main hangar was ahead. He could see transport aircraft trying to take off, evacuation procedures in progress, personnel running, screaming. Mark crashed through the hangar doors. The aircraft were lifting off. He grabbed the nearest one, a cargo transport with 15 people visible through the windows, pulled it back down. The aircraft hit the ground hard. Landing gear collapsed. Mark tore the door off. Inside, GDA agents scrambled for weapons. He stepped inside. 3 agents opened fire with automatic weapons. The bullets sparked off his suit. Mark walked through the gunfire, grabbed the nearest agent by the vest, threw him through the aircraft wall. The body ragdolled across the tarmac. The others tried to run. Mark caught one, broke his spine with a single strike, grabbed another, slammed her into the deck hard enough to dent the metal. Caught the third, mid-sprint, drove his fist into the agent's stomach. Organs ruptured, the body went limp, he dropped the corpse. Walked back outside, the Guardians were arriving. They came from different vectors. The Immortal from the west, eyes glowing green. Monster Girl from the east, already shifted to her combat form. Bulletproof from above, fists ready. Shapesmith, Rexplode, and 2 others Mark didn't recognize. New recruits, replacements for teammates lost in other battles. They landed in formation, spread out. Tactical positioning. They'd trained for this. The Immortal stepped forward, tall, ancient, scarred from 1,000 deaths and resurrections. His voice carried weight. Mark Grayson. We know who you are. We know what happened to you. You don't have to do this. Your mother. Mark moved. He crossed the 50 meters between them before the Immortal could finish his sentence. His fist drove into the ancient warrior's chest. The impact sent him flying backward through a concrete barrier, through a parked transport, into the building beyond. Monster Girl attacked from the side, massive claws swiping. Mark caught one mid-swing, used the momentum to throw her into bulletproof. Both went down in a tangle of limbs. Rexplode hurled explosive charges. They detonated around Mark. Actual force behind them. He felt the concussive waves. His suit took damage. But he didn't slow. Mark grabbed Rex mid-throw, drove him into the ground. The hero's skull cracked against concrete. Mark raised his fist for a finishing blow. Bulletproof hit him with a haymaker. Actual force. Mark's head snapped sideways. He recovered instantly, grabbed Bulletproof's arm mid-follow-up, twisted, dislocated the shoulder. Bulletproof screamed, tried to pull away. Mark didn't let go. Drove his knee into the hero's ribs. Bone cracked. The Immortal was back. Speed comparable to Mark's. His punch connected with Mark's jaw. Real power behind it. Mark tasted blood. He caught the Immortal's next strike. Used the momentum to spin the ancient warrior around. Slam him face first into the tarmac. The concrete cracked. The Immortal's nose shattered. Mark pulled him up. Punched him in the jaw. Again. Again, the Immortal's regeneration was fast, but not instantaneous. Each blow did damage. Each impact broke bone that took seconds to heal. Your father, the Immortal started. Mark drove his fist through the hero's chest. Grabbed the spine. Pulled. The Immortal's eyes went wide. Mark ripped the spine partially out. Twisted it. Let the body drop. Even immortality had limits. The Immortal convulsed. Regeneration trying to reattach vertebrae, organs shutting down faster than they could repair. Mark stepped over him, continued toward the main building. Monster Girl charged again, massive form, claws extended. Mark sidestepped, grabbed her by the throat mid-lunge, slammed her into the ground. Once, twice, 3 times, each impact creating deeper craters. She shrunk back to human form, unconscious. The transformation that usually protected her had failed. Shapesmith tried a different approach, shifted into a Viltrumite form, attempted to match Mark's strength. It didn't work. Mark saw through the disguise immediately, grabbed the shapeshifter by the head, slammed him into Bulletproof, who was trying to stand. Rexplode was crawling away, skull fractured, regeneration too slow. Mark walked past him. Not worth the effort. The remaining 2 Guardians, a speedster and an energy manipulator, held their ground. Fall back, the speedster yelled. We can't. Mark caught him mid-sentence, grabbed his leg, swung him in a wide arc, used him to bludgeon the energy manipulator. Both bodies hit the ground. The speedster's leg broke in Mark's grip. The energy manipulator raised his hands in surrender. Please, we'll stand down. Mark grabbed his head, squeezed. The skull crumpled. Brain matter leaked between his fingers. He let the body fall. Silence in the courtyard. Just the sound of alarms, small fires crackling, wounded heroes groaning. Mark stood in the center of the carnage, blood on his hands, his suit scorched and torn, but standing, functional, victorious. Anissa descended from where she'd been observing. She surveyed the battlefield, the destroyed building, the shattered guardians, the bodies. Time elapsed, she asked. Mark checked his internal chronometer. 4 minutes, 17 seconds. Acceptable. She walked closer, examined the immortal's twitching form. You didn't kill this one. More efficient to incapacitate and continue mission. Correct analysis? She looked at Mark. Cecil is watching. He's seen you dismantle his best defense in under 5 minutes. He's recalculating, preparing contingencies. What's your next move? Mark looked at the main building. Cecil was in there somewhere. Command center. Deep underground. Protected by layers of security that meant nothing to a Viltrumite. I go in. I pull him out. I make him broadcast Earth's surrender. And if he refuses, then I kill him and find someone who will comply. Anissa nodded. Go. I'll secure the perimeter. Ensure no reinforcements arrive. Mark walked toward the building. His boots left bloody footprints on the concrete. Behind him, the immortal was still regenerating. Monster Girl was unconscious. Bulletproof was barely breathing. The others weren't breathing at all. Earth's heroes, the last line of defense. They'd lasted less than 5 minutes. Mark punched through the blast doors. The metal tore like paper. He entered the darkness of GDA headquarters, leaving daylight behind. Somewhere deep in the complex, Cecil Stedman was waiting. And somewhere beyond that, in a house Mark didn't remember, a woman who'd screamed his name 12 years ago was about to learn her son had come home. But the boy she'd raised was gone. The weapon Anissa built had taken his place. Mark descended through 9 levels of GDA headquarters. Each security checkpoint was destroyed in seconds. Blast doors ripped from their hinges, automated defenses torn apart, biometric locks bypassed through brute force. The facility was evacuating, personnel flooding through emergency exits. Mark let them run. They weren't the objective. Cecil's command center was at the bottom level, beneath 30 meters of reinforced concrete and titanium plating. The entrance was sealed with doors rated to withstand a nuclear blast. Mark punched through them anyway. The metal screamed. Hinges snapped. The doors crumpled inward like aluminum foil. Mark stepped through the opening into fluorescent lighting and the smell of recycled air. Cecil Stedman stood in the center of the room, alone. No guards, no weapons visible. Just a man in a suit, hands in his pockets, looking tired. Mark Grayson, Cecil said. His voice was steady. Been a long time. Mark walked forward, scanned the room. Monitoring stations, tactical displays, communication equipment. All offline. Cecil had shut everything down deliberately. Where are your defenses? Mark asked. You already destroyed them. The Guardians were our best shot. Cecil lit a cigarette, took a long drag. They lasted longer than I expected, honestly. 4 minutes is pretty good against a trained Viltrumite. You're not afraid. I'm terrified. But I've been in this job 20 years. Fear stopped being useful about 19 years ago. Cecil exhaled smoke. You're here to make me surrender. Broadcast Earth's capitulation. Get us to submit to imperial rule. Yes. Can't do that. Mark moved faster than human eyes could track. His hand closed around Cecil's throat, lifted him off the ground. You don't have a choice. Cecil didn't struggle, just looked down at Mark with those calculating eyes. Sure I do. You can kill me. Can't make me cooperate. That's the beautiful thing about humans, Mark. We're stubborn bastards. We'd rather die than submit. Then you'll die. Probably. But it won't matter. You kill me, someone else takes over. You kill them, someone else after that. You can kill every government official on Earth and we still won't kneel. That's not how humans work. Cecil's face was turning red. You're stalling, waiting for reinforcements that aren't coming. No, I'm talking, because 12 years ago, I watched Anissa drag a 5-year-old child into space, watched his mother collapse, watched his father break, and I swore that if I ever saw that child again, I'd try to reach him before I died trying to stop him. That child doesn't exist anymore. Maybe. But Debbie doesn't believe that. Your mother. She's upstairs right now. She was in the building when you arrived, refused to evacuate. Cecil's voice was strained from the pressure on his throat, but still controlled. She's waiting in conference room B. Said she wants to see her son. Said, she knows you're still in there somewhere. Mark's grip didn't loosen. My genetic donor is irrelevant to the mission. Then why are you still holding me instead of killing me? Cecil managed to smile through the choking. Because you're curious. Some part of you wants to see if she's right, if there's anything left of the kid who played catch in the backyard. Mark stared at him, analyzed the statement. The psychological manipulation was obvious. Cecil was trying to create doubt, hesitation, emotional conflict. Anissa had warned him about this exact tactic. He should kill Cecil now. Broadcast the execution. Show Earth that resistance was futile. But where is conference room B? Mark asked. Cecil's smile widened slightly. 3 floors up, East Wing, room 317. Can't miss it. Mark dropped him. Cecil collapsed, gasping, rubbing his throat. If you're lying, Mark started. I'm not. She's there. Been there for 2 hours, waiting. Cecil stood slowly. But Mark, before you go, one thing. What? Your father's alive. Mark stopped, turned back. What? Nolan? He survived Anissa's first attack. Took him 3 years to recover. He's been working with the coalition of planets, gathering intelligence, trying to find you. When I sent word you were here, Cecil checked his watch. He's probably breaking every speed record in the galaxy right now to get to Earth. Mark's expression didn't change, but something in his chest shifted, just slightly. Nolan Grayson is a traitor to the Empire. If he arrives, I'll execute him. Coming anyway, because apparently, genetic donors care about their offspring, even when those offspring are conditioned to be killing machines. Cecil lit another cigarette with shaking hands. Conference room 317. East Wing, your mother's waiting. Mark walked out without another word. Conference room 317 was untouched by the battle. Clean white walls, conference table, chairs arranged neatly, one woman sitting at the far end. Debbie Grayson, 12 years older than Mark's fragmentary memories. Gray in her hair now, lines around her eyes, wearing a blue cardigan and jeans, hands folded on the table, shaking slightly. She looked up when Mark entered. Her face went through a dozen emotions in 3 seconds. Hope, fear, grief, joy, all tangled together. Mark stood in the doorway, studied her, tried to find recognition in his memory banks, tried to connect this woman to the blurry images of someone who'd screamed when Anissa took him. Nothing concrete, just shapes, impressions. You're Debbie Grayson, he said. Genetic donor, married to Nolan Grayson for 20 years, real estate agent. No combat capabilities, no strategic value. Debbie flinched like he'd hit her. That's how you see me? Strategic value? That's what you are. I'm your mother, Mark. I carried you for 9 months. I raised you for 5 years. I read you stories every night. I taught you to tie your shoes. Her voice cracked. She took a breath, steadied herself. I know what she did to you. I know she took you and broke you and made you into something you were never meant to be. But I also know my son is still in there somewhere. Your son died 12 years ago. I'm what replaced him. No. Debbie stood, slowly, like approaching a wild animal. No, that's what she wants you to believe. That's the lie she built your entire world on. But it's not true, baby. You're still you, still Mark, still the little boy who used to fall asleep holding my hand. She was walking closer. Mark could kill her with a thought. One punch, one movement, but he didn't move. I don't remember that, Mark said. I do. I remember everything. Your first word was Dad. You were obsessed with dinosaurs when you were 4. You hated broccoli, but you'd eat it if I made airplane noises. You used to have nightmares about monsters under your bed, and I'd sit with you until you fell back asleep. Debbie was crying now, but still walking forward. I remember all of it, Mark. Every single moment. And I never stopped loving you. Not for 1 second in 12 years. Love is weakness. Attachment is failure. Sentiment compromises mission effectiveness. Is that what she taught you? Yes. And you believe it? Mark's jaw tightened. I know it. Debbie was close now. 3 meters. 2. She raised her hand slowly, reaching toward his face. Can I touch you, please? Just once? Mark should refuse, should leave. This entire interaction was psychological contamination, exactly what Anissa had warned him about. But he didn't move. Debbie's hand touched his cheek. Gentle, warm. Her fingers were shaking. "You're so tall," she whispered. "So grown up, my little boy." Tears were streaming down her face. "I missed you so much. Every single day. I looked for you. I prayed. I hoped. And you came back. I came back to conquer Earth, not to reunite with genetic donors. You came back because she made you, but you're here in this room because some part of you wanted to see me, wanted to know if I was real, if I still cared." Her other hand came up, cupping his face with both hands now. "And I do, baby. I care so much. I love you so much." Mark stood there, her hands on his face, her eyes searching his, looking for something he wasn't sure existed anymore. "I should kill you," he said quietly. Anissa said emotional attachment is the primary vector for mission failure. That I should eliminate family connections immediately to prevent contamination. Then do it. Debbie didn't move her hands. "If you're really what she made you, if there's nothing left of my son, then do it. Kill me right now. Prove her conditioning worked." Mark's hands came up. Slowly, his fingers wrapped around her wrists. One movement and he could snap them, could kill her before she felt pain. His hands were shaking. "I don't—" He stopped, started again. "I don't know how to process this." "Process what?" "You. This interaction. My conditioning says you're a threat. But he couldn't find the word. Something else says different. That's your heart, baby. That's the part of you she couldn't kill. The part that's still human, still mine." The door exploded inward. Nolan Grayson stood in the wreckage, older, scarred, wearing coalition armor. His eyes found Mark immediately, locked on. "Mark," Nolan breathed. Mark released Debbie's wrists, turned to face his father. "Nolan Grayson, traitor to the Empire. Your execution is authorized under Imperial law." Nolan's face crumpled. "Son, please, I know what Anissa did. I know what she made you believe. But you're my son, my boy. I love you. I am not your son. I am Anissa's weapon. I am the Empire's instrument. You are an obstacle." Mark entered combat stance, the exact posture Anissa had drilled into him for 12 years. Stand down or be eliminated. "Mark, wait." Debbie started. Nolan held up his hand, stopped her. He looked at Mark with eyes full of grief and determination. "You want to fight me? Fine. We fight. But I'm not leaving without you. Not again. Never again. Then you'll die here." Nolan's expression hardened. "So be it." He launched. Father and son collided in the center of the room. The impact shattered windows, cracked walls, sent Debbie tumbling backwards. They crashed through the ceiling, through the floor above, into open air above GDA headquarters. Anissa was waiting. She watched them rise, locked in combat, trading blows that created sonic booms. She didn't intervene, just observed. This was the test, the final proof of her conditioning. Either Mark would kill his father and prove himself Viltrumite, or he would hesitate, and she would kill them both. They fought at 20,000 feet. Mark drove his fist into Nolan's ribs, felt bone crack. Nolan grabbed his arm, twisted, used the momentum to throw Mark toward the ground. Mark recovered mid-fall, shot back up, caught Nolan with an uppercut that sent him tumbling through cloud cover. Nolan stopped his spin, blood running from his nose. "Mark, you don't have to do this. We can talk." Talking was weakness. He accelerated, covering the distance in a heartbeat. Combination strikes, left jab, right cross, knee to the midsection. Each blow precise, efficient. Exactly how Anissa taught him. Nolan blocked 2 out of 3. The knee connected. He grunted, folded slightly. Mark capitalized, grabbed Nolan's head, drove it down to meet his rising knee. Nolan's nose shattered. More blood. "I trained you better than this," Nolan gasped. "Tried to create distance." Mark pursued. "You trained me to be weak. Anissa corrected your failures." He caught Nolan's arm. Twisted. The shoulder dislocated with a wet pop. Nolan screamed, but his other hand came up, caught Mark across the jaw. Actual force behind it. Mark's head snapped sideways. He recovered, tasted blood in his mouth. His lip was split. Nolan was breathing hard, regenerating the shoulder, the nose, but slower than Mark. Age, damage accumulation. The injuries from Anissa's first attack 12 years ago had never fully healed. Mark targeted the spine. Where Anissa had broken it, where the vertebrae were still weak, he moved low, grabbed Nolan around the waist, lifted, drove him downward through the air. They accelerated together, approaching terminal velocity. "Mark, please." Nolan was trying to break the grip. "Remember who you are. Remember playing catch. Remember your birthday parties. Remember being happy. Those are false memories. Contamination. Weakness. They're real. They're you." Mark adjusted mid-flight, rotated, put Nolan beneath him. They hit the ground. The impact created a crater 50 meters wide. Shockwave shattered windows for 6 blocks. Cars flipped. The ground buckled. Mark stood. Nolan was embedded in the crater bottom, groaning. Mark walked down the slope, grabbed Nolan by the throat, lifted him. "You chose this planet over the Empire," Mark said. "You chose sentiment over duty. You failed every principle you were supposed to uphold, and now you beg me to make the same mistake." Nolan's hands came up, not fighting, just holding Mark's wrist. "It's not a mistake, it's being human, being more than just a weapon. I don't want to be human." "Yes, you do. I saw it in that room, with your mother." You hesitated. You felt something. Mark's grip tightened. "I felt confusion. Anissa will correct it. Anissa destroyed you. She took a child and tortured him into being a monster. How can you defend her?" "Strength. Clarity. You gave me nothing but weakness." Mark threw Nolan, straight up. Nolan's body rocketed into the sky, disappearing into the cloud layer. Mark followed, flying faster, overtaking him at 10,000 feet. He grabbed Nolan mid-ascent, drove him sideways. They crashed through a skyscraper, in one side, out the other. Glass and concrete exploded. Office workers screamed. They tumbled through open air. Nolan managed to grab Mark, get him in a hold. "I'm not giving up on you. I will never give up on you." Mark broke the hold. Headbutt. Nolan's vision whited out. Mark got behind him, wrapped his arm around Nolan's throat. Chokehold, cutting off blood to the brain. "You should have given up 12 years ago," Mark said into Nolan's ear. "Would have saved yourself the disappointment." Nolan's hands clawed at Mark's arm, not breaking free, weakening. "I love you, son. I am not your son." Nolan went limp, unconscious. Mark released him, let the body fall, caught him at the last second before impact, dragged him back to GDA headquarters, dropped him in front of Debbie. She was outside now, Cecil beside her, both staring at Mark with different expressions. Debbie heartbroken, Cecil calculating. "Your husband is defeated," Mark said. "Earth's best defender lasted 7 minutes. Your heroes lasted 5. You have no remaining assets capable of resisting Imperial occupation. Surrender now, or I continue systematic dismantling of infrastructure until compliance is achieved." Debbie dropped to her knees beside Nolan. Checked his pulse. He was alive. Barely. "Mark, please. Compliance or destruction. Choose." Cecil stepped forward. "You've made your point. Earth can't stop you militarily, but occupation requires cooperation. You can kill us, but you can't make us work for you. Can't make us productive Imperial subjects. We'll resist passively. Sabotage. Non-compliance. You'll have to kill millions just to maintain basic order. Acceptable casualties. Is it? Because the Empire is already stretched thin. Coalition war is draining resources. Thrag can't afford to garrison Earth permanently. He needs us to submit willingly to become productive members of the Empire. But we won't. We'd rather burn it all down than kneel." Mark studied Cecil. The man wasn't lying. Earth's history was full of populations that chose death over submission. Vietnam, Afghanistan, dozens of examples. "Then I'll kill you all, replace you with species that will comply." That's genocide. That's what Viltrumites do when they fail to conquer efficiently. And Thrag will see it as your failure, not Earth's stubbornness. You'll prove Anissa's conditioning didn't work. That hybrid genetics can't be trusted. The logic was sound. Mark's mission wasn't extermination, it was conquest. Successful conquest required submission, not corpses. He was calculating responses when the sky tore open. Coalition ships, 3 of them, dropping from faster than light directly above GDA headquarters, military vessels bristling with weapons. The lead ship's comm boomed across the battlefield. "Mark Grayson, stand down. You are in violation of coalition law. Surrender immediately or face overwhelming force." Landed beside Mark. Coalition interference. Unanticipated variable. They must have been monitoring Nolan's transponder. "Orders, Commander? Destroy them quickly before they deploy ground forces." Mark launched. Anissa followed. The coalition ships opened fire. Energy weapons, missiles, kinetic rounds, the air filled with ordnance. Mark flew through it, grabbed the nearest missile mid-flight, redirected it into a ship's engine. The explosion bloomed orange and white. The ship listed, losing altitude. Anissa hit another ship from below, punched through the hull, tore her way through the interior. Crew members were sucked into vacuum. The ship broke apart, raining debris. The third ship tried to retreat. Mark caught it, grabbed the stern, pulled. The ship's engines screamed, trying to overcome his strength. Metal groaned. Mark tore the engine section completely off. The ship lost power, began falling. He let it drop. It crashed into the ocean 5 miles offshore. The impact sent up a geyser of water. The entire engagement lasted 90 seconds. Mark and Anissa floated above the wreckage. 3 coalition ships destroyed. Crews dead. The ocean was burning where fuel had spilled. "Efficient," Anissa said, "but problematic. The coalition will classify this as an act of war. They'll send reinforcements. How many? Dozens of ships. Hundreds of soldiers. They'll turn Earth into a battlefield to stop Imperial expansion. The planet will be caught in the crossfire." Mark looked down. GDA headquarters was visible below. Debbie was still kneeling beside Nolan. Cecil was watching the sky. The crater from Mark's fight with Nolan was smoking. Earth, his birthplace, the planet his father had failed to conquer. Completing the mission meant coalition war, meant millions of casualties, meant potentially destroying the planet to save it for the Empire. Failing the mission meant Anissa would kill him, meant proving hybrid genetics were unreliable, meant invalidating 12 years of conditioning. No good options, just degrees of failure. "What's your recommendation, Commander?" Mark asked. Anissa was quiet, calculating. "We extract immediate departure, return to Viltrum, report to Thrag that Earth is currently contested territory, recommend delayed conquest pending coalition war resolution." That's retreat. That's strategic repositioning. The mission was conquest, not suicide. If completing the objective requires resources we don't have, requesting support is the correct decision. Somewhere in his memory, buried beneath 12 years of conditioning, was a 5-year-old boy who'd lived here, who'd been happy here. That boy was screaming, faint, distant, but screaming. "I don't want to leave," Mark said quietly. Anissa turned to him sharply. "What?" "I don't want to extract. I want to complete the mission. Prove I'm not my father. The tactical situation has changed. Extraction is the logical choice, since those primitives have coalition backing." "Mark, your conditioning is showing stress fractures. The encounter with your genetic donors created emotional contamination. I can see it in your hesitation. We need to extract now before it compromises you further." "I'm not compromised. You just said you don't want to leave. That's sentiment. That's attachment. That's exactly what I spent 12 years eliminating." Anissa grabbed his shoulder, hard. "We're leaving. Now. That's an order." Mark looked at her hand on his shoulder, the same gesture she'd used when he killed the Tailscran champion. When she'd called him her masterpiece, he'd spent 12 years craving that approval, that acknowledgement, that sense of purpose. But standing here, above Earth, with his father's blood on his hands and his mother's voice in his memory, "No," Mark said. Anissa's expression went blank. "What did you say?" "No, I'm not leaving. I'm completing the mission. That's a direct violation of my command authority. You're confirming my assessment. You're compromised. Emotional contamination has infected your tactical judgment. My judgment is sound. Retreat proves weakness. I won't give Thrag that impression." "Mark." Anissa's voice dropped. Cold, absolute. "I made you, I own you. Your entire existence is my creation. You will obey, or I will dismantle you piece by piece and start over with better materials." Mark met her eyes. "You made me strong enough to have opinions that aren't yours." Anissa's hand tightened on his shoulder. then released. She floated backward. I see. The contamination is complete. Your father's weakness has infected you after all. Disappointing. She entered combat stance. I'll give you one chance to recant, Anissa said. Acknowledge your error, request extraction. We return to Viltrum, I recondition you, we continue. No, then you're a failed experiment, and I terminate failed experiments. Anissa's first strike shattered 3 of Mark's ribs. She taught him everything, every technique, every counter, every weakness. She knew exactly where to hit, exactly how hard, exactly when. Mark blocked the follow-up. Barely. Her fist grazed his temple. His vision blurred. He countered with a combination, left, right, uppercut. She dodged all 3, moved inside his guard, drove her elbow into his solar plexus. Air exploded from his lungs. He doubled over. She grabbed his head, drove her knee into his face. Cartilage crunched. Blood poured from his nose. 12 years, Anissa said. Her voice was ice. 12 years of perfecting you, and you throw it away for what? Sentiment? Weakness? The delusion that you're something other than what I made you? She threw him. Mark crashed through a building, tumbled across pavement, cratered into a parking structure. Concrete and rebar collapsed around him. He stood, spat blood. His ribs were healing but slowly. Anissa descended through the hole he'd made, landing with a sound like a hammer on an anvil. You can't beat me, she said. Every move you know, I taught you. Every instinct you have, I programmed. You're fighting with my techniques against me. It's suicide. I know. Then why resist? Why not submit, accept reconditioning, return to purpose? Mark wiped blood from his mouth. Because for the first time in 12 years, I'm making my own choice. Not yours, not Thrag's, mine. Anissa moved. Mark tried to counter. She was faster. Grabbed his arm, twisted, dislocated the shoulder. He screamed. She didn't let go. Pulled harder. The arm separated. Tore from the socket. Mark's vision whited out. Pain overwhelmed thought. She dropped him. He collapsed, clutching the ruined shoulder. Choice. Anissa crouched beside him. You think you have choice? You're a weapon. Weapons don't choose. They execute. That's what I made you for. She stood, raised her foot, positioned it over his head. I'll make this quick, then I'll report to Thrag that the hybrid experiment failed. Genetic contamination proved too strong to overcome. He'll understand. Her foot came down. Nolan hit her from the side. The impact sent both Viltrumites tumbling across the parking structure. Concrete shattered. Support columns crumbled. Nolan and Anissa crashed through the far wall into the street beyond. Mark rolled to his side, gasping. His arm was useless, hanging by tendons. He forced himself to stand. Outside, Nolan and Anissa were circling each other. Nolan was beaten, bloody, barely standing. But standing. You don't touch my son, Nolan said. Anissa smiled. No warmth in it. Your son? I destroyed that child 12 years ago. What you're protecting is a broken weapon, a failed project. He's still Mark, still human enough to defy you. That's more than you ever were. Human enough to die. Anissa launched. They collided. Nolan was weaker, slower, injured. He lasted 30 seconds before Anissa had him pinned, face down in the street, her boot on his spine. Weak, Anissa said, just like I told Thrag. Sentiment destroyed you, made you pathetic. Mark was running, arm hanging useless, ribs grinding. But running. Anissa saw him coming. Stay down, Mark. This doesn't concern you anymore. You're already dead. I'm just finishing cleanup. Mark kept running. Anissa increased pressure on Nolan's spine. Vertebrae cracked. Nolan screamed. Last warning, Mark. Stop or I paralyze him. Then I kill him. Then I kill your genetic donor. Then I sterilize this entire planet and tell Thrag you went rogue. Mark didn't stop. Anissa's expression shifted. Confusion. She'd never seen disobedience from him before. Not once in 12 years. What are you doing? Choosing, Mark said. He hit her. Full force. His one good arm. Everything he had left. The impact drove Anissa back. She released Nolan, stumbled. Mark followed up. Sloppy, off balance with only one arm, but committed. Anissa blocked, countered, her fist caught him in the throat. He choked, dropped to his knees. She grabbed him by the hair, forced him to look at her. Why? Why throw away everything I gave you? Purpose, strength, clarity. What does Earth offer that's worth this? Mark couldn't speak, throat crushed, but he looked past Anissa. Debbie was there, standing at the edge of the battle zone. Cecil had tried to hold her back. Mark could see him grabbing her arm, but she'd broken free, ran toward the fight. "Mark!" Debbie screamed. "Baby, don't give up, please!" Anissa turned, saw Debbie running toward them. Her expression hardened. The source of contamination should have eliminated this variable immediately. She released Mark, started walking toward Debbie. "No," Mark gasped. Couldn't stand, couldn't breathe. "Don't!" Anissa ignored him, accelerated, covered the distance in seconds. Grabbed Debbie by the throat, lifted her off the ground. Debbie kicked, clawed at Anissa's hand. Couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. 12 years of work, Anissa said, not to Debbie but to Mark. 12 years of conditioning, and this weak human parasite undoes it in 10 minutes. Unacceptable. Mark tried to stand. Couldn't. His body wasn't responding. Too much damage. Too much pain. "I'll remove this contamination myself," Anissa continued. "Then I'll recondition you properly. This time I'll ensure no emotional residue remains." Her grip tightened. Debbie's face was turning purple. Something in Mark's mind fractured. Not broke. Fractured. Like glass spiderwebbing before it shatters completely. He saw two images simultaneously. Overlapping. Competing. First image, 5 years old. Small hands, Debbie picking him up after he fell off his bike. Kissing the scraped knee. "You're okay, baby. Mommy's got you." Second image, 12 years old. Gravity chamber. Bones breaking. Anissa standing over him. Again, "You don't stop until I say stop." The images wouldn't reconcile, couldn't coexist. One was warmth, safety, love. The other was pain, purpose, strength. Both were real. Both were him. Mark screamed, not from pain, from the impossibility of containing both truths. Something ignited in his chest. Not powers, not strength. Something else. Something Anissa couldn't have conditioned because she didn't believe it existed. Choice. Mark stood. One arm. Broken ribs. Crushed throat. But standing. Anissa noticed. Impossible. You shouldn't be able to move. Mark walked forward. Each step was agony. Each breath was fire. He walked anyway. "I said stay down." Anissa's voice had an edge now. Uncertainty. Mark kept walking, spoke through a crushed larynx. Words barely recognizable. "Let her go." "Or what? You'll stop me? You can barely stand." "Let her go." Anissa's eyes narrowed. "You're willing to die for this human? For genetic material that contributed nothing but weakness to your biology?" Mark was close now. 5 meters. 3. "She's my mother." The words felt foreign, like a language he'd forgotten and was relearning phonetically. But true. "Your mother?" Anissa's grip on Debbie loosened slightly. "After everything I taught you, after I showed you what you could be, you choose this?" "Yes." Anissa stared at him, really looked at him, saw something she'd spent 12 years trying to erase, saw it intact, functional, chosen. Her face twisted, not anger, something worse. Betrayal. "I gave you everything," she said quietly. "Everything I know. Everything I am. I made you my masterpiece. And you're choosing her? I'm choosing me. The version she raised and the version you made. Both. That's impossible. They're incompatible." "I know." Mark extended his good hand. "Let her go, Anissa, please." Anissa looked at Debbie, still choking, still dying. Then at Mark, standing on Will alone. Then at Nolan, crawling toward them, spine damaged, barely functional. A family, broken, bleeding. Refusing to quit. Everything Viltrumite doctrine said was weakness. Everything Anissa had spent 2,000 years destroying in other species. And here it was, working, somehow. "I don't understand." Anissa said. Her voice was hollow. "How is this making you stronger instead of weaker?" "Because they're worth being strong for. Not the Empire, not you. Them." Anissa's hand opened. Debbie dropped, gasped, collapsed. Nolan dragged himself to her, pulled her close. Anissa floated backward, staring at Mark like he was a stranger. You're broken. Defective. I failed. No, you didn't fail. You made me strong enough to choose. Choice is weakness. Choice is the only thing that matters. Anissa was silent, processing, her entire worldview cracking. She'd conquered 47 planets, killed thousands, served the Empire for 2,000 years, all based on the certainty that strength came from eliminating choice, from perfect conditioning, from absolute purpose. And Mark, her masterpiece, her proof, her greatest work, was rejecting it. If I let you go, Anissa said slowly, if I return to Viltrum and report your defection, Thrag will send others. Stronger, more committed. They'll sterilize this planet. I know. You'll die defending it. Probably, and that's acceptable to you. Mark looked at Debbie, at Nolan, at Earth spread out beneath them. Yeah, it is. Anissa closed her eyes, breathed, opened them. Then I was wrong about you. You're not Viltrumite. You're not human. You're something I don't have words for. She floated higher, preparing to leave. I'm going to tell Thrag the truth. That hybrid genetics produced unpredictable results. That you're too unstable to serve imperial interests. He'll write off Earth as a failed experiment. No occupation, no conquest. But also no protection. You'll be on your own. That's all I'm asking. Anissa looked at him one last time. Her masterpiece. Her failure. Her she didn't know what. Goodbye, Mark Grayson. She launched. Straight up. Disappeared into the atmosphere without a sonic boom. Mark collapsed. His legs gave out. He hit the pavement hard. Debbie was there immediately, cradling his head. I've got you, baby. I've got you. Nolan dragged himself over, put his hand on Mark's chest. You did it. Son, you chose. Mark's vision was fading. Blood loss. Trauma. His body was shutting down. But he heard his mother's voice. Stay with me, Mark. Please stay with me. The last thing he felt was her hand in his. Warm. Safe. Home. Mark woke 3 days later in a GDA medical facility. The room was white. Sterile. Monitors beeped steadily. His arm was in a regeneration cradle. Viltrumite technology courtesy of equipment Cecil had confiscated over the years. His ribs were wrapped, breathing hurt, but less than before. Debbie was asleep in a chair beside the bed. Her hand rested on his, fingers intertwined, gray hair falling across her face. She looked exhausted. Mark tried to move. Pain lanced through his shoulder. The arm was reattaching, but slowly. Viltrumite healing was fast, but not instantaneous with damage this severe. Debbie stirred, opened her eyes, saw Mark awake. Oh, thank God. She stood, leaned over him. How do you feel? Like I fought Anissa. You did. You lost. But you're alive. She squeezed his hand. That's what matters. Mark looked at their joined hands. 12 years ago, this touch would have meant everything to a 5-year-old child. Now, it felt complicated, familiar, and foreign simultaneously. Where's Nolan? He asked. Recovery room down the hall. His spine is still healing. Cecil says another week before he can walk. Debbie brushed hair from Mark's forehead. The gesture was automatic. Maternal. The doctors said you should have died. Blood loss alone should have killed you. But you held on. You fought. Viltrumite biology. Hard to kill. No. You held on because you wanted to. Because you chose to live. She smiled, but it was sad. I know you're confused, baby. I know you don't know who you are right now. Human or Viltrumite. My son or Anissa's weapon. But you're here. You're alive. We can figure out the rest. The door opened. Cecil entered, walking stick tapping. He looked older, tired. Mark, good to see you conscious. We need to talk. Debbie straightened. He just woke up. Can't this wait? No, it can't. Cecil pulled up a chair. Sat. Anissa left Earth 3 days ago. Our satellites tracked her to the edge of the solar system. Then she went FTL. We lost her. She's going back to Viltrum, Mark said, to report to Thrag. That's our assessment. Which means we have maybe 2 weeks before the Empire decides what to do about you. About Earth. We need a plan. Anissa told Thrag I'm defective. He'll write off Earth as a failed experiment. No conquest. No occupation. And you believe her? She has no reason to lie. I'm proof her conditioning failed. She'll report that hybrid genetics are unreliable. Thrag will agree. Or, Cecil countered, Thrag will see you as a threat, a Viltrumite who chose humans over the Empire. He might decide to make an example, send a kill team, sterilize the planet to prove defection is punished. His head was still fuzzy, pain medication and trauma making thinking difficult. What do you suggest? Mark asked. We prepare. I've got authorization to activate every contingency protocol we have. Orbital defenses, superhuman rapid response, coalition outreach for emergency backup. We make Earth too costly to attack. It won't work. You saw what I did to the Guardians, what Anissa did to the coalition ships. Earth can't stop determined Viltrumite assault. Then we need a Viltrumite on our side. Cecil looked at Mark directly. Will you defend Earth if the Empire comes back? The question hung in the air. Debbie's grip on Mark's hand tightened. Mark studied his mother's face, the hope there, the fear, then looked at Cecil, the calculation, the pragmatism. I don't know who I am, Mark said quietly. Anissa spent 12 years making me Viltrumite, making me a weapon. That conditioning doesn't just disappear because I had one moment of choice. I still think like she taught me. Analyze threats, calculate efficiency, see humans as tactically inferior. But you chose us anyway, Debbie said. I chose you. One moment, one decision. That doesn't mean I'm fixed. Doesn't mean the conditioning is gone. I can feel it. Right now, analyzing this room, counting exit points, assessing you both as potential threats. It's automatic. Cecil leaned forward. Mark, nobody expects you to be fixed. Nobody expects you to suddenly be the kid you were 12 years ago. But you made a choice once. Can you make it again? When the Empire comes, and they will come, can you choose Earth? Mark looked at the ceiling, white tiles, fluorescent lights, so different from Viltrumite architecture, so different from the training stations and combat arenas where he'd spent his adolescence. I don't know, he admitted. Part of me wants to. Part of me is screaming that defending primitives is illogical, that I should return to Viltrum, submit to reconditioning, serve the Empire properly. That's what 12 years of training tells me. And the other part? Debbie asked. Mark looked at her. The other part remembers your hand on my face, your voice, Nolan's eyes when he said he loved me. That part wants to protect this, wants to believe love matters more than doctrine, but I don't know if that part is strong enough. Silence, just the beep of monitors. Finally, Cecil stood. Then you've got 2 weeks to figure it out, because when they come, you'll have to choose. And Earth's survival depends on which choice you make. He walked to the door, paused. For what it's worth, Mark, you've already proven you're stronger than Anissa thought. You broke her conditioning once. You can do it again. He left. Debbie stayed. Baby, she said softly, I'm not going to tell you who to be. I can't. You've lived more in the last 12 years than most people live in a lifetime. But I want you to know, whatever you choose, I'll love you. If you stay, if you go, if you defend Earth, if you can't, I'll love you, because you're my son, and that doesn't change. Mark felt something crack in his chest. Not pain. Something else. Something that had been frozen for 12 years. He started crying. Not the silent tears of a 5-year-old being dragged into space. Full, ugly sobbing. 12 years of suppressed emotion breaking through conditioning like water through a cracked dam. Debbie pulled him close, let him cry into her shoulder, didn't say anything, just held him. Mark cried for the childhood stolen, for the boy who died in Anissa's care, for the weapon he'd become, for the impossible choice between two halves of himself that couldn't coexist. He cried until he had nothing left. 1 week later, Mark stood in the GDA training facility. Nolan was across from him, spine healed. Moving carefully, they'd agreed to spar, test Mark's combat reflexes, see if Anissa's training was still dominant. Ready? Nolan asked. Mark nodded. They engaged. Nolan attacked with classic Viltrumite technique. Mark's body responded automatically. Blocked. Countered, moved exactly how Anissa had trained him. 30 seconds in, Mark had Nolan pinned, arm twisted behind his back, pressure on the spine, one movement away from crippling him. Mark held the position, felt the muscle memory, the efficiency, the perfection of technique, then released. I can't, Mark said. Every instinct says finish it. Disable the threat, but I can't. Nolan rotated his shoulder. That's good. Means you're fighting the conditioning. Or means I'm weak, conflicted, unreliable. Means you're human. I'm half Viltrumite. I conquered Tailskria, killed 700,000 people without hesitation. I nearly killed you. That's not human. Nolan was quiet for a moment. No, it's not. But you stopped. That's the human part. The Viltrumite part is strength, efficiency, power. The human part is choice. You've got both. The question is which one you listen to. Mark sat on the training mat. Anissa said they're incompatible, that trying to be both will destroy me. Anissa was wrong about a lot of things. Nolan sat beside him. I spent 17 years trying to be both. Viltrumite warrior and human father. I failed. Not because it's impossible, but because I tried to keep them separate. Be Omni-Man in costume, Nolan at home. Never integrated them. How is that different from what I'm doing? You're not separating. You're fighting. The conditioning says one thing, your heart says another, and you're forcing yourself to choose between them every time. That's exhausting. Unsustainable. So what's the alternative? Stop fighting. Accept that you're both. Let them coexist. Use Viltrumite strength to protect human values. Use human empathy to guide Viltrumite power. They don't have to be separate. They can be complementary. Mark looked at his hands. They'd killed thousands, destroyed cities, broken his own father. I don't know how to do that. Neither did I, but you've got something I didn't. You've got time. I made my choice after 17 years of lying. You're making yours at 17 years old. You can still figure out who you want to be. The training room door opened. Cecil entered. His expression was grim. We've got a problem, big one. Mark, you need to see this. They followed him to the command center. Screens showed deep space telemetry. Something was approaching Earth. Fast. Viltrumite signature? Mark asked. 3 of them. ETA 72 hours. Cecil pulled up trajectory data. They're not slowing down, not hailing, not responding to communication attempts. This is a kill team. Mark stared at the screens. 3 Viltrumites, coming for him. Coming for Earth. Can we evacuate? Debbie asked. She joined them, standing beside Mark. 7 billion people, not in 72 hours. We're committed. Cecil looked at Mark. This is it. Decision time. Do you fight for Earth, or do you surrender to the Empire? Mark closed his eyes, felt the war inside his head. Anissa's voice. Serve the Empire. Submit to authority. Return to purpose. Debbie's voice. You're my son. I love you. 2 truths. Incompatible. Demanding choice. Mark opened his eyes. I need to talk to Anissa. She's gone. Probably back on Viltrum by now. I know, but I still need to talk to her. Mark pulled out the Viltrumite communicator Anissa had given him years ago. Emergency use only. She'll answer. She always answers. He activated it. Waited. 3 seconds. 5. Then Anissa's voice. Mark, I'm surprised you still have this. I need to know something, Mark said. Did you report me as defective? Pause. Yes. And Thrag's response? Another pause. Longer. Termination. He's sending a purge team. 3 of his best. They'll kill you, sterilize Earth. Ensure hybrid genetics are never attempted again. You knew they were coming. Of course I knew. I recommended it. The words were a knife. Mark's grip on the communicator tightened. Why? If you thought I was your masterpiece, you were, until you chose weakness, until you proved conditioning can be overcome by sentiment. I can't allow that precedent. Can't let other hybrids think defection is possible. So yes, I recommended your termination and Earth's destruction to prove that choice has consequences. Then why did you let me live? 3 days ago, you could have killed me, killed Debbie, killed Nolan. Why didn't you? Silence, long silence. Finally, because I wanted you to understand what your choice cost. Not just yourself, your entire planet. 7 billion lives ended because you chose sentiment over duty. That's the consequence of human weakness. Remember that when they arrive. The transmission cut. Mark lowered the communicator. Everyone in the command center was staring at him. 3 Viltrumites, Mark said quietly. Thrag's elite. Coming to kill me and sterilize Earth. 72 hours. Can we stop them? Mark looked at the screens, at Earth spinning below, at the trajectory of incoming death. I don't know, he said, but I'm going to try. Debbie grabbed his hand on Mark's shoulder. Whatever happens, we face it together. Mark looked at his parents, his broken, human, stubborn parents, who refused to quit even when quitting was logical, and made his choice. Earth is my home, Mark said. I'm defending it. The three Viltrumites arrived exactly on schedule. They descended through Earth's atmosphere in formation. No stealth, no communication, just three warriors dropping from orbit like hammers of God. Mark met them at 30,000 feet, alone. The leader was called Lucan, 7,000 years old, scar tissue across his entire torso, eyes like dead planets. He stopped his descent, hovering. The other two flanked him, younger, faster, hungrier. Mark Grayson, Lucan said. His voice sounded like continents grinding. Thrag has declared you rogue. Your termination is authorized. Surrender, and we make it quick. No. Lucan tilted his head. You stand alone against three Viltrumite executioners. Your father is crippled. Earth has no defenses that matter. Surrender is your only logical option. I'm done with logic. I'm done with Empire doctrine. I'm done with all of it. Mark entered combat stance. Not Anissa's stance. Something new. Something his own. Earth is my home. You're not touching it. Then you die first. Your planet dies second. Lucan gestured. The two younger Viltrumites attacked. They were fast, coordinated, brutal. Mark blocked the first, dodged the second. Countered with a strike to one's ribs, felt bone crack. The other caught him from behind, locked his arms. Mark headbutted backward. Cartilage shattered. The grip loosened. He spun, drove his fist into the Viltrumite's throat. The warrior choked, fell back, but the first was already recovering. Regeneration. Mark blocked another combination, but he was outnumbered, outmatched. A fist caught him in the spine. Pain exploded. He dropped, caught himself mid-fall, flew upward, creating space. The two pursuers followed. Lucan watched, evaluating. Mark was losing. He could feel it. 12 years of Anissa's training meant he could hold his own, but 3-on-1 against experienced warriors, the math didn't work. Then Nolan arrived. His father crashed into one of the younger Viltrumites from above. They tumbled through cloud cover, trading blows. One Viltrumite down. The second turned toward Nolan. Mark intercepted. Your fight is with me. They engaged. Mark was faster than before. Not stronger. His injuries hadn't fully healed. But something had changed. He wasn't fighting like Anissa anymore. Wasn't pure efficiency and calculation. He was fighting like himself, improvising, taking risks, using emotion as fuel instead of suppression. The Viltrumite caught him with a liver shot. Mark grunted, absorbed it, countered with an elbow to the temple. The warrior staggered. Mark followed up, combination strikes, each one carrying 12 years of anger and pain and confusion. The Viltrumite went down. Mark stood over him, breathing hard. Lucan finally moved. Impressive. You've developed beyond Anissa's conditioning, but insufficient. He was right. Mark was exhausted. Nolan was barely holding off the other warrior. And Lucan was fresh, untouched. Then the sky filled with coalition ships, dozens of them, dropping from FTL, surrounding the battle space, weapons hot. Cecil's voice boomed across all frequencies. Viltrumite warriors, you are in coalition-protected space. Stand down or face overwhelming force. Lucan's lip curled. Coalition interference. Predictable. The ships opened fire. Energy weapons. Missiles. Everything they had. Lucan flew through it. Grabbed the nearest ship, tore it apart. Crews died screaming, but more ships kept coming. Hundreds. The coalition had committed everything. And behind them, something else appeared. A single Viltrumite, descending slowly, not attacking, just present. Anissa. She landed between Mark and Lucan, looked at neither, just spoke into the void. Lucan. I'm invoking Protocol 17. Observer status. Thrag authorized my assessment of hybrid viability. This execution is premature. Lucan's eyes narrowed. Anissa, you recommended termination yourself. Why the reversal? Because I made an error. The subject requires further observation. His defection may provide useful data on hybrid psychology. Termination eliminates that research opportunity. It was a lie. Mark could hear it. Lucan could hear it. But it was technically valid. Protocol 17 existed. Observer status was legitimate. Lucan calculated 3 Viltrumites plus coalition forces plus Anissa's uncertain allegiance versus orders from Thrag. The math was messy. I'll need to confirm with Thrag, Lucan said. Confirm. I'll wait. Gestured to his warriors. They disengaged. Nolan limped toward Mark, bleeding but alive. The coalition ships held position. Weapons locked, but not firing. Anissa turned to Mark. Her face was unreadable. We need to talk. Privately. They flew to the upper atmosphere, far enough that no one could hear. Why? Mark asked. Why come back? Why lie to Lucan? Anissa looked at Earth below. Blue-green. Fragile. Because I spent 3 days on Viltrum reporting your failure, documenting how sentiment corrupted you, how human genetics proved unreliable. And Thrag agreed. Authorized your termination. Authorized Earth's sterilization. Then why stop it? Because I realized something. She turned to face him. I've spent 2,000 years serving the Empire, conquering, killing, conditioning. I thought that was purpose, thought that was meaning, but watching you choose your family over everything I built, I started questioning. Questioning what? Whether the Empire is right, whether conquest is purpose, or just violence with a philosophy attached. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. You broke my conditioning, Mark, not just yours. Mine, I don't know what I believe anymore. Mark stared at her. So you're defecting? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Except, she paused, except I don't want you to die. And I don't want Earth to burn. And maybe that makes me weak, maybe that makes me contaminated, but it's how I feel. Below, Lucan was receiving Thrag's response. Mark could see it in his posture, the stiffening, the anger. He's not going to accept the delay, Mark said. No, Thrag will override Protocol 17. Order immediate termination. Lucan will comply. Anissa looked at Mark. You can't beat 3 Viltrumite executioners. Even with your father, even with coalition support. They'll kill you, destroy Earth. Complete the mission. Then what do I do? Anissa was quiet, calculating. Then, you survive. Because I'm going to help you. She activated her communicator. Broadcast on all Viltrumite frequencies. Thrag, this is Anissa. I'm formally declaring Mark Grayson under my protection. He remains my project. My responsibility, any termination order requires my direct participation. I invoke Mentor's Right, an ancient protocol. The warrior who trained a subject had final authority over their termination. It was traditional, respected, but it was also treason if the mentor defended a rogue subject. Lucan's voice came through. Anissa, you understand what you're doing? Yes, I'm protecting my work. Mark Grayson remains under evaluation. Earth remains under observation. No termination until my assessment is complete. Thrag will see this as defection. Then let him. I've served the Empire for 2,000 years. I've earned the right to make this call. Silence, Lucan was conferring. The other Viltrumites were waiting. Coalition ships held position. Finally, Lucan spoke. Thrag has denied your claim. Mentor's Right is revoked. You are to stand down or be classified as rogue yourself. Anissa looked at Mark. Then, I'm rogue. She moved, faster than Mark had ever seen her move. Crashed into Lucan before he could react. They tumbled through the sky, trading blows that created sonic booms. The other 2 Viltrumites engaged Mark and Nolan. Coalition ships opened fire. The sky turned into a war zone. Mark fought the younger warrior. Even match now. The Viltrumite was stronger, but Mark was angrier. Each punch carried 12 years of stolen childhood. Each strike was for Debbie's screams, for Nolan's broken spine, for every moment Anissa had tortured choice out of him. He got the warrior in a hold, applied pressure, felt vertebrae stress, yield. The warrior spat blood. Viltrumites don't yield. Then adapt. Mark increased pressure. This planet is mine. I'm not asking permission. I'm declaring it. Earth is independent. Under my protection. You tell Thrag. You tell the Empire. Anyone who comes here answers to me." Something snapped. The warrior went limp. Mark released him, let the body fall toward the ocean. It would regenerate, would swim to shore, would deliver the message. He turned. Nolan had disabled his opponent. Anissa and Lucan were still fighting, evenly matched, both bleeding, neither yielding. Mark flew toward them. Lucan broke from Anissa, hovered, breathing hard. "This is pointless. Thrag will send armies. Fleets. You can't stop the Empire. Maybe not, but I can make it cost too much to be worth it." Mark gestured at the coalition ships, at Earth below, at Anissa floating beside him. "Earth is protected. By me. By the coalition. By anyone who thinks conquest isn't the only answer. You want to take it? Fine. Come with everything you have. But understand, I'll make you bleed for every mile." Lucan studied him, saw something in Mark's eyes. Not fear, not submission. "Certainty, you're declaring war on the Empire," Lucan said. "No, I'm declaring independence. There's a difference." Lucan was silent. Calculating odds, 3 Viltrumites down, coalition forces present. Anissa defected, and Mark, young, inexperienced, but absolutely committed. The math had changed. "I'll report this to Thrag," Lucan said finally. "He'll make the decision. But understand, Grayson, this isn't over. You've made yourself a target, a symbol. The Empire can't allow defection to go unpunished." "Then let them come. I'll be waiting." Lucan gestured. His 2 warriors recovered, joined him. They ascended together. Broke atmosphere. Gone. The coalition ships held position for another minute. Then they withdrew. Their contract was defense, not occupation. Mark floated above Earth, Anissa beside him, Nolan limping through the air below. "What now?" Anissa asked. Mark looked down at the planet. 7 billion people who didn't know how close they'd come to extermination. Who were going about their lives while warriors fought for their survival in the upper atmosphere. "Now I make good on the threat," Mark said. "Earth is independent. No empire, no coalition, no external authority. Just Earth. And you?" Anissa asked. "What are you?" Mark considered. "Human? Viltrumite? Son? Weapon? All of the above?" "I'm the thing you made and the thing I chose to become," he said finally. "I'm both, and I'm done trying to separate them." He descended. Nolan followed. Anissa hesitated, then joined them. They landed at GDA headquarters. Cecil was waiting. Debbie was there, eyes red from crying. Coalition representatives, news crews, everyone. Mark ignored them all, walked to Debbie, pulled her into a hug. "It's over," he said. "We're safe." "For how long?" "I don't know, but today we're safe. That's enough." Cecil approached. "Mark, we need to debrief. Figure out next steps. Earth's political status just changed fundamentally. We need to breathe," Mark interrupted. "The Empire will come eventually, or they won't. But right now, we won. Let people celebrate that." He turned to address everyone. News cameras focused on him. "People of Earth," Mark said. His voice carried. "Strong. Certain. You don't know me. Not really. 12 years ago I was taken from this planet, turned into a weapon, sent back to conquer you. I failed that mission not because I was too weak, but because I was strong enough to choose differently." He paused. "Earth is now independent. Not because the Empire granted it. Because I'm declaring it. This planet is under my protection. Anyone who threatens it, Empire, coalition, whoever, they answer to me. I'm not your ruler. I'm not your hero. I'm your warden. Your last line of defense. Live your lives. Be human. I'll handle everything else." Silence. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Then hundreds. Mark didn't acknowledge it. Just turned to his parents. "Can we go home?" he asked. Debbie smiled through tears. "Yeah, baby, let's go home." 3 months later, the house was the same. Same kitchen, same backyard. Same hole in the ceiling now repaired. Mark stood in his old room. The bed was too small. The posters were childish. But it was his. Debbie knocked on the doorframe. "Dinner's ready? Made pot roast, your favorite. I don't remember if it's my favorite." "Then try it. Maybe it'll become your favorite again." Mark followed her downstairs. Nolan was setting the table, moving carefully. His spine still wasn't perfect. might never be perfect. They sat, ate. Debbie asked about Mark's day. He'd spent it patrolling, stopping a Flaxen incursion, mediating a superhuman conflict in Singapore, being Earth's warden. Do you miss it? Nolan asked. Viltrum, the Empire. The certainty of purpose? Mark considered. Sometimes. Anissa's conditioning made everything simple, clear. But simplicity isn't the same as right. And Anissa? Debbie asked carefully. Where is she now? Somewhere. She checks in occasionally, sends intelligence about Imperial movements. She's figuring herself out, same as me. Do you forgive her? Nolan asked. For what she did to you. Mark set down his fork. I don't know. She destroyed my childhood, made me a killer, but she also made me strong enough to choose. I'm both grateful and angry. Maybe both are okay. They finished dinner. Mark helped clean up. Normal, domestic, strange after 12 years of combat training. Later, standing in the backyard, Mark looked at the stars. Somewhere up there, Thrag was deciding Earth's fate. Somewhere, Anissa was running from the empire she'd served for millennia. And here, Mark was trying to figure out how to be human. His communicator buzzed. Anissa's frequency. Mark, thought you should know. Thrag's called off the Earth operation. Too costly. Too complicated. You're officially classified as a rogue asset. Empire won't pursue active conquest, but they won't protect you either. You're alone. I know. That's the point. Good luck, Mark. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Not for becoming what I made you. For becoming something better. The transmission ended. Mark stood in his backyard, Earth's protector, independent warden, a weapon that learned to choose. He wasn't the child Debbie had raised. He wasn't the weapon Anissa had built. He was something new, something impossible, something that shouldn't exist but did anyway. He was Mark Grayson, and that was enough. Let us know what you'd like to see next. The end.